In June 2026, a single company went public on the New York Stock Exchange, and on day one, it was worth $2 trillion, not 2 billion, 2 trillion. That made it the most valuable company debut in the history of financial markets. Bigger than any tech IPO, bigger than Saudi Aramco, bigger than anything Wall Street had ever seen. The company was SpaceX, and here's what makes this story insane. 24 years before that moment, this company had about 65 employees, no revenue, no proven rocket, and a founder who most of the aerospace industry thought was completely out of his mind. To understand SpaceX, you have to understand Elon Musk. He was born in Pretoria, South Africa in 1971. By the time he was 12, he had taught himself to code and sold his first video game, a space shooter called Blaster, for $500. At 17, he moved to Canada to escape mandatory military service. Then he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, studied economics and physics, got into Stanford for a PhD in energy physics, and dropped out after 2 days because he had a better idea. His first company, Zip2, sold to Compaq for $307 million. Then he co-founded X.com, which became PayPal. In 2002, eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion. Elon Musk walked away with $180 million. He was 30 years old. Most people in that situation buy a yacht, maybe a house in Malibu, retire. Elon did something different. He asked himself, what problems actually matter? And his answer was, humanity becoming a multiplanetary species, and that meant going to Mars. So Elon went to NASA's website looking for their Mars mission plan. There wasn't one. He called up aerospace experts. He flew to Russia to try to buy decommissioned ICBMs to use as rockets. Seriously, he literally went to Russia 3 times to buy old Soviet missiles. The Russians turned him down and reportedly laughed at him. On the flight home, Elon opened a spreadsheet and did the math. He realized rockets aren't expensive because physics demands it. They're expensive because nobody's tried to build them like a tech startup, rapidly, iteratively, and with the goal of making them reusable. In 2002, with $100 million of his own money, he founded Space Exploration Technologies, SpaceX. SpaceX set up shop in an old Boeing 747 factory in Hawthorne, California, a 550,000 square foot warehouse in a suburb of Los Angeles. Elon recruited some of the best aerospace engineers from NASA, Boeing, and Lockheed Martin, people who'd spent their careers working on $100 billion government programs. He told them, we're going to build a rocket in 2 years for a fraction of what it costs anyone else. We're going to manufacture everything in-house, and we're going to be the first private company to reach orbit. Most of the industry thought he was delusional. The rocket was called Falcon 1, named after the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. March 24, 2006, launch day on Omelek Island in the Marshall Islands. Years of design. 65 employees who'd given up stable careers. $100 million on the line. 33 seconds after liftoff, a fuel leak caused a fire. The rocket lost thrust and fell back to Earth, destroying everything on the launch pad, including a satellite belonging to the Department of Defense. 33 seconds. Flight 2, March 2007. The rocket made it higher, but a fuel slosh problem caused the engine to cut out. Failure. Flight 3, August 2008. This one almost made it to orbit. The first stage separation went wrong. It collided with the second stage and destroyed both. Failure. 3 failures, somewhere between $90 and $100 million burned. And Tesla, Elon's other company, was simultaneously hemorrhaging cash and on the verge of bankruptcy. Employees were getting paid late. Some were taking out personal loans to cover their rent. Morale was at rock bottom. Here's what most people don't know about this moment. Elon had used almost every dollar he had. He told friends he was surviving on personal loans. He was going through a divorce. His net worth, which had been $180 million, was nearly gone. He gave his team a speech. He told them, I will never give up on SpaceX. As long as we do not give up, we have not failed. The only way we fail is if we stop trying. But there was money for exactly one more launch. One shot left. September 28th, 2008. The fourth Falcon 1 launched perfectly. The engines burned clean. Stage separation worked flawlessly. The second stage ignited, the payload fairing deployed, and 7 minutes and 52 seconds after liftoff, Falcon 1 reached Earth orbit, the first privately developed liquid fuel rocket in history to reach orbit. Mission control in Hawthorne exploded. Engineers were crying, hugging strangers. Elon Musk, who had kept his composure through 3 catastrophic failures, broke down. He said afterward, I never thought we'd make it this far. 6 weeks after that launch, NASA called. They awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion commercial resupply contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station, beating out Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and every other aerospace giant who'd applied. The company that was 6 weeks from total collapse suddenly had a $1.6 billion Lifeline, but SpaceX didn't slow down. They accelerated. The next rocket was Falcon 9, bigger, more powerful, and far more reliable. In 2012, the Dragon capsule, built by SpaceX, became the first private spacecraft to successfully berth with the International Space Station, a milestone that NASA engineers said would take at least a decade for a private company to achieve. SpaceX did it in 10 years from founding. Then SpaceX did something that changed the entire economics of the space industry. In December 2015, SpaceX landed a Falcon 9, first stage booster, vertically, right back on the launch site, for the first time in history. The aerospace industry said it was impossible. Physics said you couldn't land a rocket on its tail like a science fiction movie. SpaceX said, watch this. Within a few years, they were landing boosters routinely, sometimes catching them in midair with giant mechanical arms on the launch tower. Reusable rockets cut the cost of getting to orbit by over 70%. This is the moment the economics of space change permanently. In 2019, SpaceX started launching Starlink, a constellation of internet satellites designed to bring high-speed broadband to every corner of Earth. By 2026, Starlink had deployed over 7,000 satellites, making it the largest satellite constellation in history, 4 million subscribers in over 100 countries, annual revenue approaching $9 billion. Starlink is not a side project. Starlink is SpaceX's profit engine, the revenue source that funded Starship, that funded operations, that made the whole empire possible, and it's still growing. Then there's Starship, 120 meters tall, 33 Raptor engines on the booster, the most powerful rocket ever built, more thrust than the Saturn V that sent men to the moon, designed to carry 100 people to Mars, to land on the moon for NASA's Artemis missions, to eventually replace Falcon 9 and every other rocket in the fleet. By 2025 and 2026, SpaceX had achieved successful orbital test flights of Starship. The rocket that once looked like a science experiment was becoming operational, and Wall Street was paying very close attention. For years, SpaceX was the most valuable private company in the world. Investors had been clamoring for a chance to own a piece of it. Elon had always said, SpaceX will go public when Starship is flying regularly and Starlink is consistently profitable. In early 2026, both conditions were met. SpaceX filed for its IPO with a targeted valuation of $1.5 to $1.8 trillion. What happened next shocked everyone. June 2026. The opening bell rings at the New York Stock Exchange. SpaceX, trading symbol SPCX, opens at a price that valued the company at $2 trillion. $2 trillion. In a single day, SpaceX became one of the 10 most valuable companies in the world. More valuable than Tesla, more valuable than Amazon, the largest public market debut in history. Elon Musk's personal stake, valued at the IPO price, made him the wealthiest person in human history by a margin that seemed almost impossible to comprehend. Now here's the part of this story that gets me every time. In September 2008, SpaceX had the money for one more rocket launch, one more attempt. Tesla was nearly bankrupt. Elon was personally out of cash. He launched anyway, not because the odds were good, they weren't. Not because investors were encouraging him, they weren't. But because he had made a decision that this mission, making life multiplanetary while our smil, was more important than his personal financial survival. 3 rockets exploded. Most people would have quit after one. Elon launched 4 times in 5 years, and on the 4th try changed the course of human history. The lesson isn't that you need to be Elon Musk. The lesson is, your biggest breakthrough is usually one attempt past where most people give up. That's the SpaceX story. From a warehouse in Hawthorne, California, to the most valuable IPO in history. If you want more stories like this, the real behind the scenes of how legendary companies got built, failed, and came back, subscribe to IPO Legends. Every week we break down a company that changed an industry. Drop a comment below. Who should we cover next? Apple's early near bankruptcy, Amazon's first decade of losses, Nike's origin story on a handshake deal. I'm your host. See you on the next one.